Am I the a-hole for telling my dad and his wife their marriage wasn't a deal my siblings and I signed up for? My dad married his wife 5 years ago. I, 16 female, was 11, my brother was 14, and my sister was 15. His wife had an 8 and 6-year-old at the time, who are now 11 and 13. The marriage was tough on my siblings and me. Our dad's wife came in day one of living together and made things much more strict, with our dad's backing obviously, but she was always on us. Always picking apart the stuff we did. We'd always had chores, but usually my brother and I woke up early and did ours before school, while my sister did hers in the hour she was home without anyone else. That was stopped, and we were told all kids had to do chores together, so the big kids could help the little ones. My sister said it wasn't our job to help her kids. Dad's wife said they were our siblings now, which my sister and brother loudly declared they were not, and it became a fight. We went from being able to eat out with friends after school or at friends' houses to needing to be home for family dinners. We complained to our dad, but he said it was important to his wife that we all come together. Stuff like that was common, and she and my brother and sister fought a lot because my siblings did not treat her kids even close to how they treated me, and it bothered her. With me, it was less of a fight because I was the baby of our sibling group, and I think she thought I would eventually take the role over. When I didn't, and my siblings made no effort to be her kids' big siblings, she and my dad dragged me to family therapy, and we have been going for a while now. What sparked the interest in therapy was my sister ended up moving into a place, and she had a room just for me there, and another just for my brother, and no special space for our step-siblings. So anyway, therapy has been ongoing for months now. And it's basically been a lot of my dad and his wife talking and asking why I don't call her stepmom or her kid siblings. And then the therapist finally decided to take control recently and start going into more stuff. And he asked why it bothered them so much that we weren't super close, and my dad's wife said her kids came as part of the package deal, and we all knew the deal when they got married. I jumped in and said my siblings and I never signed up for their marriage, said we were part of no deal, and it's not fair to hold us to any deal made because we didn't make it. My dad blew up on me in the session, and the therapist was trying to defuse the situation. The last 4 sessions, my dad and his wife have dominated the sessions over what I said. They also put me under house arrest for being rude and selfish for saying what I did. It pisses me off, but part of me wonders if I was wrong to say it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell the therapist that you've been grounded for sharing your feelings in a therapy session. I don't think there's much he can do at this point. Is basically just another body in the room during these sessions when my dad and his wife dominate. It's literally his job to handle this. Could you contact him outside of the sessions, or do you feel unsafe doing that? Also, are her kids there, or just you? Just me. It is his job, but, yeah, I could call. Your parents are being dishonest about the therapy. They wanted to fix you, instead of learning what is going wrong with the family dynamic. Tell the therapist you're being punished for things you say in therapy. Not the a-hole. Move in with your sister if you can. They will never change. They are literally forcing you to therapy to fix the mess they made. They will always blame you guys. If I were Opie, I'd do it. I'd call the police non-emergency and speak with an officer and say, I'm 16 and moving in with my sister. My dad might throw a fit, and I know legally you guys can't do anything since it's a civil matter. I just wanted to get an idea what would happen if he does call you guys so I can be prepared. The few times I've had to preemptively call, they've even given me a way to teach the notes for calls so I could tell the officer to check the notes, and then evening always goes my way. Not the a-hole. To hold you in contempt for what was said during therapy, where you're supposed to feel safe and heard, is disgusting parenting. You are absolutely right. You guys didn't sign up for this package deal. And for them to hold you accountable for their choices is messed up. I hope that the therapist gains control of the sessions, and feel free to tell them that you are being punished at home for what is said in sessions. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my things out of my room because I'm moving and making my foster sister cry? So I, 18 female, am moving out. I've been sharing a room with my foster sister, just 16, for 3 months. Throughout my life, I have had many foster siblings and have been forced to give up my things for them, which I think is where my possessiveness of my belongings comes from. I told my mom I was going to pack my stuff beforehand, and she said sure, but that her and Jess would be out while I do so. I didn't take all the furniture, but I took things like my keyboard, my plants, my books, posters/art, all my clothes, etc. I also took the butcher's block that I had. By the time everything was packed, my side looked a lot more bare, but it wasn't too bad. I also took the cats, which was always the plan between my mom and I. Well, when the pair gets home, Jess looks at the boxes and runs upstairs before sobbing. My mom runs up too and starts ragging on me. Apparently, she didn't think I'd take all my stuff, things like my trinkets and my lamp, and that I took some of Jess's favorite things, like the posters on my wall that I bought with my own money or my graduation candle holders. I apologized to Jess, but say that everything in the boxes is mine, through gifts or my own money. I even offered to buy her some duplicates or similar things, but she said she wants my ones. At this point, I leave because I realize my presence isn't making anything better. My mom texted me later and said it was a prick move not leaving some posters up or a few books. But in my mind, these are my things and I am entitled to them. My relationship with my mom isn't over, but it's strained, and now I'm wondering if I should have just bit the bullet and left some things behind, even though they're mine. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's your stuff. You have every right to take it. Exactly. And Opie was even generous enough to offer to buy Jess some stuff of her own. I get that as a foster child, Jess might have abandonment issues, but that doesn't mean that Opie has to give up her things. The real a-hole here is Opie's mom for berating Opie. That's only enabling Jess and making her feel more entitled to Opie's belongings. Opie's mom is failing both girls here. She could have used this as a bonding moment with Jess, to take her out and buy Jess her own books and posters that Jess could keep forever. That was my thought. She took her out so she wouldn't be there while the packing was going on. And if she had realistic expectations, she could have done that then, so Jess could have been excited to redecorate and less focused on the leaving aspect. Not the a-hole. While sharing is important, being forced to share is basically theft. It's not your fault your foster sister likes your things. You like them too. So yes, take all of your stuff and get out of there. Not the a-hole. These are your things and no one is entitled to them but you. Also, your foster sister's mental health isn't your responsibility. It's your mom's. Also, let me point out that you have nothing to feel guilty for. This strain on your relationship is your mother's fault as a consequence of her reaction. Not the a-hole. They were your things. You had no reason to anticipate Jess's reaction or duty to remedy it. My guess is she's sadder about you leaving than your posters, and the boxes and barren room really drove that home. Maybe as a 16-year-old foster child, she has abandonment issues? Her refusal to accept the replacement posters would certainly support this theory. So I don't know if I can call Jess the a-hole. Your mom, however, is definitely the a-hole for blaming you for Jess's reaction and, once again, demanding that you sacrifice your own things for your foster siblings. Next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole for throwing every wrestling match I'm forced to attend? My 15-male school has recently restarted all of the sports programs after almost a year of no limited activity. Before that, I was part of the swim team, one of the smaller groups at our school. I love swimming, and it really sucked that we couldn't go for such a long time. With the restart, the school also made a new system. Every student writes down 3 different after-school activities in order of interest, so number 1 choice is your favorite, 2 your second favorite, and so on. The teachers in charge of the groups then pick the students. First pick is students who already belong to the groups before lockdown. Second pick is then random, and third pick is if there are still places left open in the group. Since I was part of the swim team before and put it down as my first choice, I would basically be guaranteed to get in. But now the results are out and I was placed in wrestling. Never even put that on my list at all. So I went to the teacher and asked what's going on. Turns out the teacher in charge of wrestling specifically requested me for whatever reason. Turns out my dad knows the wrestling teacher quite well and asked for me to be placed on the team. I know my dad hates that I prefer swimming. He always says it's not a real sport, and that I should do some sport that actually gives me muscles. He constantly tells me I'm too skinny for a guy, and has made several attempts to make me go to the gym to work out. I asked the teachers if I can still switch teams, but they say no. I also cannot just avoid a wrestling club because after-school activities are mandatory. So last night, I had a huge fight with my dad. I called him a knave for forcing me to go to wrestling. and that I will just forfeit every single match I have to attend. He threatened me, saying if I do that, he will take away all my electronics, and I will only be allowed to leave the house for school and nothing else. My mom says I should have the right to choose whatever sport I want, but now that I'm on the wrestling team, I should still do my best. And also not to call my dad an A. But I don't want to participate in something I have zero interest in, was even forced into. Also, I was really looking forward to swimming again and meeting my teammates. Now for the comments. Complain to your principal. This backroom deal between your father and the wrestling coach doesn't sound fair to you or anyone else who trusted the voting system. Fight displacement. You deserve swim team, not day hole. I can try to request a talk with the principal. We can't just walk in and talk to him. Have to go first to a teacher, then secretary and so on. But yeah, I will complain to my teachers. This isn't fair. Ask your swim coach among other teachers to speak up for you. Not day hole. That's ridiculous. And also, your dad doesn't think swimming gives you muscles? Less manlier sports like gymnastics and even areas like dancing can be just as good for the body as more conveniently physical sports like football and wrestling, and great for stamina, hand-eye coordination, and straight-up perseverance. Look at Nightwing in the comics. Background is a trapeze artist with an acrobatic movement style, and he is one of the sexiest DC characters for good reason. Not a-hole, but there are plenty of a-holes in your story. Dad, coach, and mom. I forced my kids to do stuff when they were your age, but only after they themselves had asked to join an activity. We had a one-semester rule. If you yourself want to play soccer, you don't get to come and go to practice as you wish because of Xbox or quit mid-season. Also, wrestling isn't just any sport. It is a combat sport that isn't for everyone. To force a young man to wrestle against his will is more bonkers than to force someone to swim. But don't call your dad an A if you want him to listen to your argument. Holy cow, not day-hole. Your father needs to learn something. Swimming is one hell of a workout. It's an Olympic sport for a reason. Sure, you don't get super buff like a bodybuilder, but you do get muscles from that. Swimming takes a lot of energy as well. It's not an easy sport. Also, you should fight this, as it was not your choice to begin with and this was a backroom deal. You stated this was not your choice. If it's not on the paper, why are you there? The teacher asked? No, they stated one of three. Wrestling is not one of your three choices. So they're saying your choice doesn't matter? Or will they honor your choices? Yeah, I will try and talk to my teachers again. Maybe they will let me switch later, cause I know a lot of people are asking right now to switch since they didn't get their first choice or so. Yeah, Dad doesn't like cardio workouts and so on. He also wants me to eat more and lift to get bulky like him. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister not to bring her kids over so much? I, 25 female, recently graduated. The city I live in has a shortage of apartments. I could technically afford an available one, but that would mean I would have no extra money for anything but the bare basics. While waiting for a more reasonable place to open up, I have moved in with my parents, who own a house within reasonable commuting distance. My older sister, 32 female, has 3 children. 6 male, 3 female, 1 female. We aren't very close, as her entire identity since her oldest was born is a stay-at-home mom. She usually brings her kids over several times a week to visit, or have my parents babysit while she goes grocery shopping or other errands. I'm not really a kid person, don't plan on having any myself, and I can tolerate hers in small doses. Before, when I lived on campus, this wasn't really an issue. Now, however, I feel like I never get a break from kids. My parents don't allow them in my room, but when they're here, I can't go out and relax in the living room since they're in there. My room is fairly small, and I don't like being cooped up in it all day when they visit. Yesterday, when my sister picked up the kids, they decided to stay for dinner, which meant I had even less time without them. I asked my sister if she would limit their visits to a max of twice a week while I'm here, in order to respect my needs. She got extremely angry at me and accused me of selfishly preventing her kids from seeing their grandparents. Am I the a-hole? Do you ever think your parents are just tolerating you? You're 25. Move out. Entitled is the best word to describe you. You're the a-hole. I was thinking maybe the parents are encouraging the visits to annoy OP into leaving. Lol, I bet it's this. Opie's clownishly entitled. You're the a-hole. Not your house. And I'm sure your folks love seeing their grandkids. I say this as a child-free woman who understands kids can be way too much. I get the whole child-free thing, but it really bums me out when people act like this towards their own nieces and nephews. No one is asking you to adore being with children all the time, but the disrespect these children have to endure from people who have no reason not to love them is incomprehensible to me. Yet another child-free woman here to support this post. I'm also an only child, so this situation would never happen, but I can't imagine ever having the nerve. Opie, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole for a lot of reasons. Her entire identity since her oldest was born is stay-at-home mom. What else is it supposed to be? She's a mother with 3 kids. Give her a break. My parents don't allow them in my room. That is your needs being met, by the way. Anything past this makes you the a-hole. You want to relax in your home? Go get one. But your parents deserve to be grandparents if they want to be, and you don't get to take that away from them or your sister. But it's all about me, me, me. I hate all little kids except me, me, me. You're the a-hole. It's not your house, and nobody asked you to babysit. The entitlement coming off Opie is absolutely insane. Am I the a-hole for exposing my son's future stepdad and causing my son to resent him? My son is 17 and I co-parent with my ex-wife, and I'm not married nor I am seeing anyone. I'm just focusing on work and providing for my son. My ex-wife, however, so far dated 3 guys who are just not nice. The third one, Anthony or Tony, is a somewhat decent guy, but can act self-centered and is selfish in a lot of ways. He stated that he's not interested in being any competition to win my son over, and just wanted to be a positive role model in his life. I said, why not, as long as he's bringing positive influence. I work in a highly demanding job, and so I'm mostly absent from holidays, weekends, birthdays, etc. It's unfortunate, but my son understands and we're close enough spiritually, so that makes up for the distance. His birthday was days ago. I couldn't attend, but I already sent him a pretty cool, a bit expensive, wristwatch, and it was supposed to arrive 2 days before his birthday. I called my son to ask if he received it yet, and he said no. I was so confused that I went to my ex-wife's house to inquire about this matter. She said they didn't receive anything, and Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address, and then suggested I just buy another watch from another store if I had no time and had work to take care of. I checked with the online store from which I bought the watch, and they assured me that the watch was received, and showed me proof which was a signature allegedly from my ex's brother. My ex's brother swore he didn't receive anything, nor was at his sister's house at the time. So I had a talk with the person who delivered the watch, and he described the guy at 5'4", with short hair and clean-shaven face, wearing red t-shirt who said he was my ex's brother. I figured it was actually Tony, so I told my ex and she and him denied it. I demanded to check the front door cam, and there he was, taking the watch and re-entering the house. My ex and my son were shocked. I mumbled, so much for a positive role model. Tony started stuttering, then said he was just keeping it for my son till his birthday. My son said he saw him wearing a new watch when going out, but couldn't outright confront him, and Tony obviously wasn't planning on giving it. I said he was planning to steal my gift from my son, and he swore this wasn't the case, but my son said he won't speak to him anymore. My ex said I just drove a wedge between my son and his stepdad by justly accusing him of stealing the watch. It now made my son hate him when I should have discussed this privately. I said my son deserves to know what his future stepdad did, and that he should have given the watch to my son the minute he received it. They still insisted he was just keeping it. I later learned my son no longer wanted to spend his birthday with his stepdad and went to his grandparents to celebrate. My ex was livid, saying Tony got excluded from our son's birthday, and it's because of me, and demanded I clear the confusion. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. How pathetic of a man to steal a birthday gift from a teenager. Even more pathetic that the mom is so desperate for a man that she let him get away with it and blamed Opie. The mom is so delusional that she really believed this lie Tony told about keeping the son's watch to give him later. Like, who are you to keep the gift? Who are you to decide when your stepson gets his gift from his father? What a weirdo. Got caught stealing, and now the ex-wife blames the father for exposing her loser new husband? Not day-hole. The guy stole your son's gift for himself. You did not drive a wedge between him and your son. He did that all by himself. Did you really think this would not get out? Your wife seems to be deep in denial if she really believes the story that her boyfriend was just keeping it for him, especially since you already told your son about the gift. The guy got caught in a series of repeated lies, including forging his brother's signature and lying it had gotten delivered. This wedge between him and your son is of his own making, because he is a thief. Yep. If he had been genuinely just keeping it for the son, he had like half a dozen opportunities to say, "Oh hey, yep, don't worry, I've got it." And he wouldn't have been wearing it. Even if he opened it, which he shouldn't have worn it. It was probably addressed to the son, so he not only opened it, he kept it and wore it. This dude deserves no consideration in trying to preserve his image to the son. He's a thief and a liar. They insisted he was just keeping it. Did you ask to see it? If it was in the original packaging and it opened, they might have a case. If not, then they can't really deny they were just keeping it for your son. And if they were doing that, what's with the lying and stuff? Why wouldn't he just let you know he was holding on to it till your birthday? In addition, Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address and suggested I just buy another watch from another store. Why would he suggest you buy another one if he was just holding on to it? I can't believe your ex is in so much denial about all these obvious things that shows that Tony is just a lying thief. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's not my fault she didn't want for her kids to be happy about her remarrying? My sister got married 2 weeks ago today. She lost her first husband 18 months ago to cancer. They had my nephew Tyler 11 and my niece Kaylee 10 together. Tyler and Kaylee have been lost since their dad died, and became even more lost when they learned their mom was dating again 9 months later. My sister did a lot of grieving before her late husband died, so nobody was too surprised when she was ready to find someone fast. We all kinda thought she might wait longer to talk marriage though. But after 4 months, she was engaged, and the kids were not okay. They have cried on my shoulder several times because they don't get how their mom could get married again, and they don't get what they're supposed to like about the new guy. My nephew even said he doesn't get how he's supposed to love him and think of him as a new dad, or even a new member of the family, when their family was so good before, and now they'll never have a good family again. I have reassured them the best I can. My sister and I lost our brother years ago, and I know the scars a loss leaves. But since I never lost a parent, it's hard. I was in charge of the kids at my sister's wedding, and it was rough. Both of them walked away from the ceremony to stand outside and cry, and my sister was pissed at me about it because I was supposed to keep them in the wedding and stop them from making a big deal out of it. But I couldn't make them stop crying. All I could do was comfort them and try to cheer them up somehow, but man, it's hard. Those kids are devastated by the marriage, and I mean they are in so much pain because of it. My sister confronted me a few days after the wedding and told me I should have done more. That I let the kids spoil the day and make a scene because everyone there heard them crying and saw them leave. She said that as her brother, I should have worked to make her day perfect, and that I need to be more supportive of her and help the kids accept the changes and be happy for her and the family. I told her it's not my fault she didn't wait for the kids to be happy about her remarrying, and I don't have a magic wand to make them happy. That they need therapy and time. She called me unsupportive, judgmental of her decision, and said I lacked compassion for her loss, her grief, and her need for adult love. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She has made a new relationship a priority over her kids, them dealing with her grief. The fact that she's a grown-up and did her grieving long before her husband passed away doesn't mean the kids did. There is something seriously wrong with her priorities if she thinks her kids made a scene and caring about having a perfect day, rather than the fact her kids are having such a hard time with everything. What she did has won the game of who's going to the retirement home. I don't understand how someone doesn't get their kids' approval, and if they decide to marry someone. Even my narcissistic mother asked me if there were any grievances first. Not the a-hole. The kids need therapy. She's absolutely prioritizing herself over them, and it's oof. They're gonna resent her and hate her husband in no time. I agree they need therapy to help them cope with everything that's going on. But I hope Opie and his family explain to sister that therapy won't necessarily fix their feelings about her relationship, or with her and stepdad. The aim should be to get the kids as mentally well, resilient, and stable as possible. But too many AITA posters parents seem to think therapy will be a magic wand to get the kids to accept the new dynamic. I wouldn't even have gone to the wedding. She has the right to get remarried, as you say. She started grieving before her husband died. But getting remarried 18 months later when the kids are still grieving and are vocal about how they're struggling with everything, she's going to be hated by her kids. And as soon as they're going to be able to, they're going to leave and cut ties with her. She could have had adult love and still respected her kids in the time they need to grieve their father. I really don't get people like that. She's mad about them crying for one day, but that's nothing compared to a lifetime of resentment the kids will have for her and her new husband. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my husband out for lying about our baby's gender? My husband, male 31 and I, female 29, are expecting our first child together. We plan to have 3, by the way. Ever since I got pregnant, my husband's been saying he wanted our first child to be a boy. I don't know why. He never cared in the past. It is the type to treat everyone equally. But his reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. I didn't take it seriously, because honestly that's ridiculous, but harmless, so why not let him just express his wishes? But later I found out he was telling the family it was going to be a boy, and that he had a hunch and he was 100% certain and positive about it. He kept saying the same thing over and over that I had to tell him to slow down, because even if he didn't know he was going over the top, he was still giving the family false hopes. He promised to stop, but still says he had a strong hunch that I'll see that he was right all along. We found out our baby's gender this past week, and it's a girl. My husband admittedly seemed a bit upset, but he said it's because this was not what he was expecting. He even said he wasn't sure about the ultrasound results, which is a bit much. Anyway, we got home and he stayed on his phone for hours. Then in the evening, I started getting calls from family congratulating us for the baby boy. I felt confused, so I asked my mother-in-law how she found out, and she said my husband made the announcement on his Facebook. I was upset, so I checked his page with my phone and saw it. I wanted to talk to him about his lie, but first I made an announcement on my Facebook and announced that it's a girl, then called my husband out for lying to his entire side of the family. He apparently saw it instantly and came into the room looking angry, asking what I was doing. I asked why I lied to his family about our baby's gender. I decided it was just a temporary lie, till I could slowly get them to think it'll be a girl. I said this was illogical and unfair for our daughter. His phone rang, and he freaked out, demanding I take the post down because his family are beginning to see it and are calling. I refused, but he got more pissed, saying we should be discussing this privately, not calling each other out on social media for everyone to see. He told me to take it down, but not until it takes us down, which he called petty and passive-aggressive. Then he stormed off, saying he won't be answering anyone's calls, after I sent them to harass him with what I posted on my Facebook instead of talking to him privately. Am I the a-hole? Wow. Red flags. Not the a-hole. I hope your child grows up loved. This is incredibly weird behavior. I'm so sorry. I hope your daughter never finds out he acted this way. He may need counseling, honestly. I don't even need to vote. You and literally everyone else in the world knows your husband is being delusional, ridiculous, narcissistic, and completely unreasonable. My hopes for him as a father are not high, and this is a huge red flag for your relationship. But his first reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. Someone should have explained to him that's not how genetics work. Not the a-hole. He's acting like a child on so many levels here. Openly expressing disappointment about his unborn baby sex. Setting his family up with false expectations. Going behind your back. Doubling down on his first silly lie. Getting mad at you for telling the truth. He's got a long way to go in learning to be an adult, let alone a husband or father. Husband goes behind Opie's back to lie to his entire family, and probably a bunch of other people. Also, husband, I can't believe you'd go behind my back. He also posted on social media, but doesn't want it all in social media. Her husband is giving me a headache. Last story. Am I the a-hole for immediately leaving home when my parents lied to me? My brother Aiden, 20 male, and I, 22 female, have not spoken to each other in over 5 years. These years of silence from his end was because, as my father quotes, I kept making fun of him. Tardiness for school, spending choices, disorganized planning, etc. This is very biased, because it is from my point of view, but it doesn't take away the fact that I still hurt him, and it was my fault. However, I don't think it's fair to say that I was the sole contributor to this estranged relationship. There have been many instances where Aiden has acted out and said/done some hurtful things to me as well. My short height, body hair, driving skills. I have accepted my part in that I was a terrible person and older sister, so I tried to reach out several times within those 5 years to reconcile, but Aiden continued to ignore me, which is understandable. Since then, I left things as they were and tried to move forward with my own life. For the past 2 years, I usually drive home frequently from college to visit. But I finally realized the reason I was unhappy coming home was because 1, the lingering tension and unresolved conflict with Aiden made things difficult, and 2, I was still expected to clean up after him despite the fact that there was no sense of common decency from him towards me, even if I truly deserved it. Early this school year, I vocalized my displeasure with my parents, that if Aiden came home to visit from college, I would not be doing so. It was insulting to me that letting Aiden piggyback off the housework I did felt like I had no self-respect for myself, especially when he has chosen to no longer speak to me and would resort to glaring/sneering instead. So either we visited home separately, or if we both came home together, I would not help around the house for the duration that he was staying. I was firm in my stance, so my parents seemed to leave me be. Come this weekend, about a month and a half into the semester, I first called prior to confirm I would be visiting before I drove up. Just 15 minutes after bringing in my belongings, Aiden comes out of your room with plates of food and drops them in the sink, not before rolling his eyes at me and going back in. A rough back and forth occurred. My parents told me I was being a selfish coward, and that I needed to learn to deal with living near each other instead of breaking the family apart. I countered that Aiden and I never resolved our personal issues, and I was no longer willing to live near someone who wasn't willing to give me the bare minimum. I gathered my things and immediately drove back to my apartment, ignoring calls and voicemails. So guys, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your parents aren't better than your brother. Even worse. They let your relationship become that bad as teenagers, and now disrespect your stance and wishes. Means they disrespect you as a person, and this can't be fixed by an apology. Now they blame you for the situation they enabled over years. They sound like a complete parental failure. Sorry. Somehow I can see who's the favorite child. Not the a-hole. But your parents are for letting their children's relationship get to the point where they weren't speaking even at age 15 and 17. You needed family therapy about a decade ago, and they were remiss for not getting on it. It sounds like you both made fun of one another in a generalized sibling way. Aiden decided to be done with you forever, and your parents are enforcing sexist chore expectations on you in his favor, despite the fact he's trying to pretend you don't exist. I wouldn't blame you for not going home when he's there, even if he were speaking to you, if you were expected to clean up after a 20-year-old man. They have hands and stuff, usually. He's a 20-year-old male. I guess his hands are tired from jerking off all day. Hope he's definitely not a-hole, though.